What is going on, everybody? It is episode 841 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here once again with my co-host. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, Crisis actors. It's Mary, and the sun is out again. I think my seasonal affective disorder flared up yesterday, but I'm back to my usual self.
When did the sun come out? It was not out this morning.
It's not out.
It is out.
It's not out.
It's definitely better than yesterday.
Definitely better than yesterday, but that it is not a light switch, it's a dial.
Let me cope, okay? Phil is here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary.
Doing good?
Doing all right.
Doing all right.
You're hosting IRL tonight as well.
I think I'm hosting IRL tonight. Hosted IRL the past 2 nights. I think I'm hosting tonight. Tim is probably on his way back, but I don't know if he's going to be back in time. And to be honest with you, I think that it's his show, so if he wants to host, obviously he can host. But I imagine that he might want to see his wife and kid.
You ever, whenever you're hosting, do you ever get on a power trip and just think about all the ways in which you could mess things up if you really, really wanted to?
No.
I think about that when I'm on IRL currently. I mean,
do you ever just think about dropping something?
No, there's a French word for that, the thought that crosses your mind where it's I could just push someone into the subway tracks right now, but you don't. Obviously, It's just occurs to you, and you're I'm in control.
Of course, there's a
my
French
actions.
word for that.
No, I don't. I generally don't. I don't really think about screwing things up that are not mine right now.
See, I think about accidentally screwing things up for everyone.
I genuinely don't worry about that. My takes aren't that spicy, and I don't I don't use the N-word in my regular
Who
life,
does
so
that?
I wouldn't slip. Well, I mean, black people.
Oh.
So
okay.
if you're a black guy, granted the context would be different, and YouTube probably wouldn't do anything bad if a black guy said the N-word on IRL.
True.
Because that actually came up when Larry Elder was on.
Oh yeah,
he was talking about it through his story and how they don't.
Right.
It's not treated the same way. Of course,
but I'm a kid from suburbia, not from an urban area where that might be something that I commonly say.
So don't let your intrusive thoughts win, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't let the intrusive thought win.
We have a bunch of stuff to get into today, but before we get started, as always, hit the like button on this.
Is it a bunch of people in the media and in entertainment being ridiculous?
Yes. But before we get into that, hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you have not subscribed here already. Whether you are on YouTube or on Rumble, you should subscribe to us on both and watch live every Monday through Friday. So what are we getting into today? We got a bunch of stuff. Number one being, of course, that Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner
are going to make a Batman movie.
That would be great.
That would be the best.
Actually, I'd want them to make a Daredevil and Elektra movie.
I wouldn't want that as much as I personally prefer Bat Affleck.
So they have multiple children, one of which is Violet Affleck, not Violent Affleck, but Violet Affleck, who has violent thoughts about climate change, in my estimation. And she blew up at her mother because her mom just doesn't get it and didn't understand that those wildfires in California, that was because of climate change.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into that because we've talked about her before. She is one of Hollywood's premier Nepo babies. So we're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk about the brand new thing that Gen Z just learned about. It's called house parties, and they are ecstatic over this concept.
Well, you can credit the All-American Rejects for that. This is a band that Zoomers didn't really grow up with, and they're discovering for the first time as the All-American Rejects go on a house party tour. And you have to know a guy who knows a guy who got the RSVP to get into one of their shows, and it's seen as this rebellious thing, like a guerrilla marketing strategy almost, and it's making Gen Z feel like maybe there is hope for humanity.
Yeah, so
I don't understand why.
We're going to talk about that. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go back in time to all the way back to the year 2003, and we're going to do a bit of a retrospective on the famous, maybe infamous, interview between Tucker Carlson and Britney Spears.
Infamous is interesting because I watched that interview from 2003. It makes me feel like it was a simpler time. It's very heartwarming.
Iconic interview.
It's charming and quaint.
It was a simpler time.
Yeah, and I feel like I kind of ship young Tucker with young Britney.
What could have been?
What could have been, truly.
All right. So if you guys are ready, then we got a bunch of stuff to get into. Mary, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Phil.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Lola Young is the newest pop music industry plant, and if you don't have a TikTok, I'll just tell you she had an extremely viral song on TikTok that got millions of streams called Messy. It's like, I'm too messy and I'm too effing clean, and it's about her having ADHD and being quirky and crazy and unpredictable. And she has a new song called One Thing, which people are saying is going to be her espresso, the song of the summer, like Sabrina Carpenter's last year. And I am not convinced, not at all. So I think we should play this clip of the song so you can get a sense for her sound.
Rip the monetization on this segment.
Yes.
I want to take you on a little ride. I want to make
Oh,
you
I
feel
saw
so
this.
nice.
Lily Allen already did this, like 20 years ago.
Wanna make
Yeah.
you feel appreciated when you're deep up in me, when you're deep up inside. I wanna show you just what I like. I wanna kiss you slow, wanna fuck you off, I wanna eat you up, I wanna cook your lunch, I wanna love you, babe. You know where I wanna be. I want you right under me. Can you just live a little let you down? I'm screaming for you, I can't breathe. Turn the light off, I'm wet. The sheets
We're already doing Cringe?
enough for me to go down.
I thought that was
This is early
later in
Cringe.
the show.
Break your bed and then the sofa. I wanna pull you close. Everybody wants
Really
to know
uninspired.
it, but me, I only want
Okay.
So the whole point of the song is that she only wants one thing, and that is a casual hookup, which is so daring, right? To promote that in pop music. I've never heard a song about casual sex before. The
like
hook
I-
is okay.
No, all of that is uninspired slop garbage.
It's
Movies can be
basically
slop.
like
Music should not be slop.
It's
Derivative of Lily Allen slop.
Yes.
That is extremely vulgar, and she's also not attractive, which is a
No.
huge reason people don't like her.
Well, the thing is
Yeah.
like
And why
as a-
she is the not
correctly don't like her.
she is not the next Sabrina Carpenter, clearly.
Correct.
as I said to you yesterday, there is a certain type of privilege in Hollywood where men can be fat and famous because they're funny. Women are the only ones who are like force you to believe that they can be sexual and fat and famous when that's not really how the world
Well,
works.
they can be because there are desperate guys that'll do that stuff.
Fair
I mean, I'm guessing most of her fan base so far is females who identify as queer bodies or something
Okay.
and have neo-pronouns. But here were some of the interpretations of her work. There's something so asexual about left-coded degeneracy.
I saw that tweet and
It's-
I retweeted it, and I thought it was
Yes.
perfect.
It's HR approved, free from danger, maximally inclusive, corporate Memphis-like. It's juvenile, comedically gross, full of play pretend power dynamics, childishly rebellious against some real or imagined Christian father. And that, if you look at the music video for One Thing, there are scenes that are comedically gross or sexualized that don't really land. In her music video for Messy, she's just standing next to this giant birthday cake and she starts throwing pieces of cake at the wall like, oh, it's because she's messy, right? Like really deep treatment
So
there.
this is the chick that did the Messy video too?
Yes.
God.
Yes.
I mean, it's
So-
in the same. It's the same type of comical, figurative art that comes when they talk about punching Nazis. Like they don't have an actual understanding of violence or any type of interaction between other people, so they have this idea in their head of what it's like. So much in the same way that they don't understand anger in the real world, they don't understand actual relationships with other people in the real world.
Another one said that Lola Young song is the final boss of this terrible Taylor Swift boy genius school of songwriting where you just kind of artlessly rattle off your faults. Oh, and then I got drunk and cheated and I have anxiety and a pooey bum. Get up off the floor and write a song. And that's kind of the entire point. It's like, I'm fat and ugly and covered in piercings and hate me, world. I hate myself and I want you to hate me just as much as I hate myself.
Well, it probably.
And I'm so relatable because of my flaws, but I'm also perfect and I'm a queen.
It's the same thing I always say, that this is music made for women to listen to while driving. That they can
Yes.
sing out loud and think that they're speaking some type of anthem into the world.
A lot of people, when Messy came out, really felt that the song spoke to them because they have undiagnosed ADHD, which prompted Lola Young to go to her TikTok account and encourage her followers to get a diagnosis of ADHD and start a medication. Because it's really transformed her life. She's no longer messy. She is a clean girl.
I would highly recommend getting a diagnosis. I'm on meds for
the
my
nails
ADHD.
are crazy.
Hate it.
6 months ago,
Hate
I
it.
started Concerta.
Already hate
And
it.
this medication has genuinely changed my life. It's changed my thought processing so much clearer, made it so much clearer. It's changed, like, just, I can see mess
the
now. I can
medication,
clean things
Adderall?
up. I can think.
It's,
it's like
streamlined,
Adderall.
like more fluid. And I just feel so much, generally a lot happier. Of course, but well, especially if you live in the UK, then the healthcare is free and the NHS is. I do feel that there's a slight over in certain aspects, an over glamorization of like people, just everyone jumping on the bandwagon and thinking they're ADHD. But I do think it's part of breaking down the stigma and making sure people are open and talking about it. I think it's so important that we're aware of our brain and what's going on in our brain. Everything's just a spectrum, right? Psychiatrists will go through and make little, labels, which is fine, but also this is all just a spectrum. My experience has been incredible. I would highly recommend, if you're against medication, then obviously even just getting a diagnosis helps you understand. But I would also highly recommend the medication I'm on, which is Concerta. I think it's super important to break down the stigma surrounding medication, because if you had a heart condition, you may take something, and we should just make sure that physical health and mental health is viewed on par, I believe. And I make music and I'm an artist, and medication has really helped my creativity. On a side note, music coming out soon.
So she's aiming to break down the stigma around getting medicated for your ADHD. And she seems to have hit back on the glamorization of ADHD among Gen Z. I'm not really buying that argument because her own song basically glamorized it for them. And one of the comments from her fan said, "What if I lose my sparkle?" So, ADHD is a superpower.
Artists have been doing uppers to make music for as long as music has existed, I'm sure, right? Same with people who write scripts for movies and stuff like that. These things have been heavily glamorized, and it would be hypocritical of me to criticize the taking of them, because I took them for years before I got sober, so whatever. But seeing people, like, there's something about it to me that says that you should feel more insular with your own mental health and you should keep it to yourself.
Yes.
And especially, like, if you want to talk, not the mental health aspect, but the medication aspect, keep that to yourself.
Yeah, there was a trend actually on TikTok a couple of years back where it was hashtag post your pill. And you were supposed to destigmatize psychiatric medication by posting literally just your pill and you taking it. And it's the epitome of oversharing on social media and faux vulnerability, faux authenticity. And people were encouraging even like minors to do this and like post about their medical history online to a bunch of strangers, which is obviously a bad idea. And back to the subject of her vulgarity, Lola Young obviously in her lyrics, in the way she presents herself, emphasizes vulgarity and like embracing your sexuality, but doing so in the grossest way possible. It's less palatable when someone who looks like her does that, obviously. It's just a double standard, obviously, because Tate McRae and Sabrina Carpenter and countless other female artists do the same thing, and they just make it more palatable because they're conventionally attractive. I take issue with Sabrina Carpenter miming sexual acts on stage in front of her child audience. Like, that's obviously disgusting and inappropriate, but she gets a pass usually because she's attractive. Or Olivia Rodrigo passing out Plan B to her audience, which is also made up of majority teenage girls, lots of minors. Parents are taking their children to these concerts. Lola Young is kind of doing the same thing, and she's on a trajectory to get to that level of relevance because they're promoting her really hard right now. This is exactly what they want to promote. So that's why I say she's an industry plant.
I'm picturing like artists in the 90s talking about, you know, making their video like, here's my speedball. It helps me with my art. Like, I was just reading last night about all of, what's his name from Depeche Mode's overdoses. David Gahan. Or was that Gore? One of them overdosed many times in the 90s. And you read about stuff like that. They were talking about how in Los Angeles in the 90s, he was called the Cat by local paramedics because he would nearly die all the time. And I just think about how we've come so far. The pharmaceutical industry really won more than anything in this, because back then you got your drugs cut with a bunch of garbage from somebody on a street corner and you hope to God you didn't die. Now it's nice, clean, comes in clever packaging in their prescription bottle. You get your commercials for it, and pop artists talk about how you too should be on it.
I would like to show a before and after of Lola Young from before she was famous to current day. This is what she used to look like. Totally normal, beautiful girl. And then she just looks like the personification of a birth control pill.
It's literally, that's pretty good.
Like,
it's literally what happens when feminism gets into a woman's brain.
Rotting you inside and out.
It literally rots you from the inside.
POV, the final boss at the methadone clinic.
She looks terrifying.
She looks horrendous.
Yeah.
That was awful, and that's I guess in the world of pop music, there has to be something awful in every subgenre. So makes sense.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
expect more of her.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
That's just a warning.
All right, let's move on.
Klarna is a payment processor that gives its customers the option to buy now and pay later. And back in March this year, they went into a partnership with Doordash. So,
this is great.
Yeah, if you want to be a Doordash Goblin and get food delivered to your house because you're too lazy to go out and get it or too lazy to cook, you can actually enter into a payment plan for that food and finance it. Buy now, pay later. So easy, right? Well, it has gotten to the point where people are not paying back these small personal loans on their food.
Dave Ramsey
and
is appalled.
Klarna is on the brink of bankruptcy as a result, and you can imagine what Dave Ramsey's reaction was to the deal between Doordash and Klarna back in March. Just utter disappointment. He's not mad, he's just disappointed.
No, he's mad. He should be mad too.
They said DoorDash partners with Klarna to offer U.S. customers even more convenience with flexible payments. That's quite the way to put it. They say pay in 4. You can pay for your Domino's in 4 installments. Pay later allows customers to defer payments to a more convenient time, such as the date that aligns with their paycheck schedule.
So it's like a check cashing place, like payday loans. So is this like the type of thing? Is somebody going to build their credit by doing this? Like they can't get a credit card, but they're going to
the only
Klarna?
thing they're going to do is destroy their credit.
No,
Clearly.
I'm saying somebody with money, but like somebody who's got money but no credit, like starts doing this to build their credit history.
There aren't people that have money and have no credit. Like there aren't.
You can Klarna or Afterpay literally anything these days. I cannot imagine
they offer
using
it on
the
all
service.
sorts of stuff that I look at on eBay.
I think I used Afterpay one time for a magazine subscription, but that's a bigger investment for the whole year. Yeah. I've never used it for like a clothing item, and certainly not for food, which is so dystopian. I know people say like late stage capitalism.
No, it's not that. It's not late stage capitalism. We've never been we've never had more abundance in all of human history. You know, I mean, granted, there are problems where young people can't find good paying jobs. That's real, but it's not like there's no, like, we're in a society of scarcity. Like we live in a society of abundance without question.
Well, that's prompted Gen Z to start door dashing their sweet treat and putting it on a payment plan because they have no, they don't have any income.
Look, I went and got a sweet treat on Tuesday, and it was delicious. It was worth every penny.
And you paid it in full.
Well, yeah, they were. I tried to give the lady an IOU at Sweet Frog. She wouldn't take it, so I had to pay.
No. But if you DoorDash your Sweet Frog, you legitimately could pay for it for the next month.
Not
That's
for
an
long.
option.
They're gonna. Well, now's the time to do it because they're gonna go out of business.
Yeah.
So just start really like racking up those bills, and then don't pay them because they're gonna go out of business anyways. So
They
There were
now
so many
have-
great shows that were doing storylines about criminals taking advantage of the banks that were failing back in 2008, like running scams on the bank because they knew they were going to get bailed out.
Oh, yeah.
You got to bail out Klarna and get out of it free.
Klarna now has over 100 million active users on their platform, and their losses have doubled in the first quarter after $136 million in customer debts went unpaid.
it blows my mind that this company was started. Like, who thought that this was a business model that was worth like investing in or building? Like, that's just incredibly dumb.
So we have this video here.
Wait, pull up the meme I just sent you first. Sorry, ma'am, but your last $1.37 Klarna payment has been delinquent for more than 90 days, and she's getting her Taco Bell burrito repoed.
No! Damn.
Well, yeah, they can't get the food back.
Guess not.
And this TikToker talked
I mean,
about...
would you really want it back?
No. This TikToker said she's losing faith in humanity and commenting on the late stage capitalism of it all
Okay, here we
in
go.
this video.
She looks exactly like that thought process.
She looks like Lola Young.
So Klarna is going bankrupt because nobody's paying them back.
No.
If you don't know what Klarna is, it's basically a payday advance type app that you can use specifically to buy things. So it's kind of like a small personal loan or like a very small credit card. You can use it to buy, at this point, pretty much anything. And a creator made a video discussing this and it blew up. There's about 11,000 comments on that post. And the majority of the comments sound something like this. What do you mean you guys aren't paying back Klarna? We love Klarna. We need Klarna. You need to pay them back. We need them. Or, what do you mean you're financing groceries? What do you mean you're using Klarna for DoorDash? If you're that poor, you shouldn't be using Klarna. God, you people are awful with money. You people
That's
are
true.
under spells. You're under a spell. Wake the fuck up. This is a multi-million-dollar capitalistic company that you are sitting here riding the dick of like your life depends on it.
What they always forget in these situations is that they're not glazing them, they're shaming you and your absolute moronic stupidity
Yeah.
and your irresponsibility.
They weren't praising Klarna by saying you're
lack
making
of-
financially irresponsible decisions with it.
Your inability to take responsibility for your own actions and take anything as your responsibility.
Saying, oh, we need to save them. We need to save them. I'm sorry, but the average consumer is not actually responsible for a multi-million-dollar capitalist company going under. Yes, maybe people should repay them if they, want to keep the service. However, it is also a business's responsibility to do risk management. And so if you're really...
This makes me want to explode, right? She is saying it's the business's fault that they're going under, right? So business bad. If the business were making a profit and successful, it would be business bad because you're expropriating, you're taking money from people, you're making money that's you oppressing people. This person is an absolute garbage can.
I mean,
absolute idiot.
It is true that companies have to do risk management, and isn't that the kind of the point that you made? Like, who comes up with this business model?
But the point that I'm making is this person is having it both ways.
Yes.
Because this person is
They wouldn't like it
clearly a
either way.
leftist. They wouldn't like it either way. You would think that they would be happy that a big corporation is going out of business and that the people that invested are losing money and that the people that took advantage of Klarna that actually used the service and never paid them back, they took advantage of them, blah, blah, blah. You'd think that would be the take that she would have, but clearly it's just business bad no matter what. It's completely absurd that she's taking this position.
We have a 20 from Kyle Dixon. When my wife told me about this, I said it would be a great way for the poors to build credit. She said that is ridiculous. It pains me to say she was right, boys. Yeah.
Your wife was right.
Shall we continue?
Yes.
Realizing you're so under because nobody's paying you back, you stop lending for a while. And they didn't do that. They just kept doing it because they don't give a fuck. And what are you gaining from writing for a huge company? Half of y'all, like, say you're leftists and you're in here like, oh, please save Klarna, please save Klarna. Are you okay? Are y'all okay for real?
Again, most people aren't. They're not dick riding Klarna. They just think you're an idiot.
Here's one of the comments. Klarna's entire business model is based on taking advantage of people who cannot afford to live. It's why you can even get groceries and DoorDash on it. Mm-hmm. Why would people get angry at those who use it as intended? It's not... You're not being forced to DoorDash slop food in 4 payment installments. Yeah. Like, no one is forcing you to do that. Yeah. Actually, delivered pre-prepared food from a restaurant is a luxury, and if you are so poor that you cannot pay for it in one payment, you should be cooking food at home. Yep. Hello? Am I talking crazy right now?
I mean, these are the same this is the same discussion that happens around healthcare, which I always find interesting because our healthcare system in this country is absolutely atrocious. Like the way that insurance is set up, not necessarily healthcare itself, but the way insurance is set up in this country is awful. But at the same time, they're talking about what happened at United Healthcare, and it's like, so what's the option? The option that they want is that the government take over and that everybody get it for free. But if there's no good way to do it and everything is seen as taking advantage of somebody else, then why would anybody make that a business model to begin with? Which is bad because it does take away from the fact that there is a legitimate discussion to be had about how awful the insurance business is for healthcare in this country. But when it's kind of drowned out by communist rhetoric, nothing gets solved.
I feel like the only acceptable use for something like Klarna is if you're getting, like, I don't even know, like concert tickets or something. That would, if you're using it on luxuries like that are actually a big expense, maybe not your daily sustenance to live.
I mean, most people. I mean, then it just depends on how far down the scale you go, because then plenty of people would say if you can't afford to buy the tickets in one go, then you probably can't afford to go.
I say that, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't do it. And even if I used Klarna, I would never not pay it back. I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah.
I thought it would just, like, charge you anyway.
Instead of Klarna, you should be buying rice and chicken breast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You should eat poor people food if you are poor people, because it's better for you than the garbage you're going to get from whatever delivery stuff, and because you don't have the money for whatever the delivery stuff is too. You remember, if it's DoorDash, you're tacking on at least $5 extra at least to get it delivered. So you got to tack that in too. It's a
plus the tip.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea.
You've seen the meme? It's like pizza $14.99, delivery fee $1.99, tip $5.99, bill $42. Like,
right, exactly.
Like $50.
And by the end of it, you're using what could have been a week's worth of groceries.
Yeah.
Food, like in terms of like the dollar value of the food.
I do think
but
that
they're like, no, like I have the right to order IHOP to my house at 2 a.m.
I do think that most people on the right should take heed of this type of language because it's becoming increasingly common in the U.S. And without a solution that works for everybody, it's going to get worse and worse. And the disaffection of people is going to get worse and worse. And the discussion around what they deem income inequality and capitalism and all of these things. A lot of people, I think, are, bless their hearts, are very naive when they think that young people are going to come around to the idea that free markets are the answer, when I don't think they've ever been educated in a way that would show show them that free markets are good at all, especially if they're going through a traditional college program, they're going to be raised to believe that their problems were made by their elders and that the only solution is to give the government more power. And videos like this just feed into that. When anybody with a rational mind looks at it and says, you made these mistakes, this is your own problem.
I don't know if it's confirmed that Klarna is shutting down anyway. I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But even if they file for bankruptcy, they'll stick around.
Yep. All right. What would you guys like to see? Cringe or cute of the day?
Of course it's cringe.
Cringe first.
Start with cringe.
Do you want to rate today's cringe? How bad is it?
Honestly, it's not that
It's not too bad?
bad. I could be wrong. Maybe I've just seen it all at this point. I don't have a sense for what's cringe anymore.
Here we go.
Let's normalize neopronouns. Today's neopronouns are rots. Did you hear my friend Process just started a band? Yeah, Rot plays guitar. Nobody even knew until like a month ago. Rot got Rot's first guitar from Rot's dad like 10 years ago.
That's not a pronoun, it's a name.
Rot is
But
the
never
pronoun.
told anybody about it. And then last month, Rot started putting up flyers looking for a singer and a drummer. Oh, you saw those? Yeah, those were Rot's. Yeah, I guess Rot didn't want to play by Rot's self anymore. Oh, you want to join? Yeah, I bet Rot would totally let you join. Yeah, I don't think Rot has a bass player yet. Yeah, let me give you Rot's number. Let's normalize
Whatever.
It's just like, I don't know how these people still exist. Like, it's been 10 years.
I
Don't
got
know.
nothing. I got nothing on these people, okay? Let's do cute of the day. This one's from Fire Eyes 007. This is Buffy, nemesis of Mo. She was, of course, named after my favorite TV show, but is not fierce in any way unless you mess with her snacks, some of which come from Mo. But, of course, we love her. She also sends love from Canada.
Very cute.
That's a very cute puppy.
Big ears.
Very cute. Okay. I'm guessing Mo or... what was this one? Buffy. I'm guessing Buffy doesn't use neo-pronouns.
No. No.
All right. Let's get started.
I've said that Jaden Smith is the absolute worst Hollywood Nepo baby, but a close runner-up is Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's daughter, Violet. Violet Affleck, in case you forgot, last year made a public plea for prolonged, indefinite mask mandates in Los Angeles. She's one of these mask-wearing freaks. She's a mask Nazi. And you can even hear her in that public plea gasping for air in between sentences. I would just like to show that video before we get into the rest of this topic.
This
so
one here?
you know who we're talking about here.
So this, do you want to remind everybody what the date of this was?
This was in July last year.
Okay.
This is
2024
2024 that she is still wearing the N95 and begging her public officials to force everyone else to do the same.
Contracted a post-trial condition in 2019. I'm okay now, but I saw firsthand that medicine does not always have answers to the consequences of even minor viruses. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown that into sharper relief. 1 in 10 infections leads to long COVID, which is a devastating neurological cardiovascular illness that can take away people's ability to work, move, see, and even think, stands to exacerbate our homelessness crisis, as well as the suffering of many people in our city. It hits communities of color, disabled people, elderly people, trans people, women, and anyone in a public-facing essential job the hardest. To confront the long COVID crisis, I demand mask availability, air filtration, and far UVC light in government facilities, including jails and detention centers, and mask mandates in county medical facilities. We must expand the availability of high-quality free tests and treatment, and most importantly, the county must oppose mask bans for any reason. They do not keep us safer. They make vulnerable members of our community less safe and make everyone less able to participate in Los Angeles together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure she felt really good about herself after that, and it prompted a lot of headlines. She's trying to make a name for herself, not as an actress or an influencer, but an activist. And now she is 19 years old and studying at Yale. She's at Yale because she's a Nepo baby and has the last name Affleck, not because of anything she ever accomplished for herself. And at Yale, she penned an essay for one of her classes titled A Chronically Ill Earth, COVID Organizing as a Model Climate Response in Los Angeles. And in this essay, she details a blow-up fight she had with her mother, Jennifer Garner, during the LA wildfires. And these smokes were so intense that her and her family had to go stay in a hotel room, I'm sure in a luxury hotel, because they're mega rich. And she got into this fight with her mom because her mom isn't clued into the severity of the climate crisis, which she says caused the wildfires. Forget the fact that, as I stated on Twitter last night, homeless, drug-addicted illegals started the fires on purpose with blowtorches.
Yes.
Their idiot mayor was in Africa on a press junket while all of this was going on.
That was a great tweet, by the way.
Their idiot fire chief was hired for DEI reasons and was not handling the situation at all. And they shut off water that could fight the fires because of climate measures they took in the first place in LA. So there were fire hydrants that just didn't have water in them. And no, Violet will tell us it was actually caused by the climate change crisis, not any of these clear and present avoidable issues caused by the leadership in LA. But here was the story that she recounted in her essay for Yale. I spent the January fires in Los Angeles arguing with my mother in a hotel room. She was shell-shocked, astonished at the scale of destruction in the neighborhood where she raised myself and my siblings. I was surprised at her surprise. As a lifelong Angelina and climate-literate member of Generation Z, my question had not been whether the Palisades would burn, but when. As I chatted with adults in the hotel, where we'd gone to escape the smoke, though, I found my position to be an uncommon one. People spoke of how long rebuilding would take, how much it would cost, and how tragically odd the whole situation had been. The crisis was acute, a burst of bad luck. It had come from a combination of high winds and low rains. She recalled how her younger brother, Samuel, was skeptical of her linking the wildfires to climate change, asking her, what did global warming have to do with the speed of the wind? She says, snarkily, hopefully most of us understand the climate crisis better than my little brother. Instead of explaining the link between the wildfires and the climate change crisis, she just made a comment to put her brother down for not getting it and not being climate literate. She then reflected on the broader generational differences in society's approach to crises like COVID-19. She argued that society mishandles systemic crises like climate change and pandemics, especially COVID, treating them as isolated events rather than ongoing, interconnected problems needing long-term solutions. Well, what are your solutions, Violet? If you're such a genius, I mean, you go to Yale.
I'd be willing to bet that it has something to do with ending capitalism.
Yeah, and, you know, centering
the marginalized,
the disabled in climate COVID protocol. I don't know. And towards the end of her essay, she concluded, we can follow the science even when it scares us. Instead of insisting that, quote, we have to live our lives until those lives go up in flames. So we should just blindly follow the science no matter where it leads us and trust the experts. And Violet is one of those experts.
I wonder if she would consider Al Gore one of the experts, and if she's ever seen the movie An Inconvenient Truth, which came out 21 years ago, or no, 19 years ago now, and had all kinds of dire predictions about what was going to happen by 2020, and not one single one of them has come true.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to change America. We were supposed to change our entire economy, the way we live, and not one of the things that Al Gore was super serious about came true.
I mean, we talk a lot about the idea of luxury beliefs and Hollywood, especially being the progenitors of luxury beliefs because they have the money and the resources to hold those beliefs. Now, we talk about it usually in the context of movies getting made because the people making the movies are of an elite class of person who doesn't have to worry about the struggles that are actually interesting or maybe may make good stories to tell about the average everyday person, instead focusing on things that are relevant to people who go to Ivy League colleges or Yale. Is Yale Ivy League? Okay,
Yes.
there you go. Whatever. These people are insufferable. Also, she said she's a Gen Zer. What did she say? She's a
climate literate member of Generation Z.
Well, as a failed government literate person who has a brain, I understand that poor government planning does a hell of a lot more to ruin life than anything to do with the climate crisis at this time.
I said it was the tweakers.
Yeah.
I said it while it was still happening. I think it might have something to do with all of these tweakers, these vagrants who are allowed to basically run LA on the streets. They make the rules. And, sometimes tweakers do tweaker things in the woods. And that includes starting fires for fun.
We're going on 45 minutes and we have only had one crisis party?
No crisis parties yet.
We haven't had a crisis party. We've had one.
Yeah, what the heck, guys?
What's up with that?
Just want to point that out, bring that to everyone's attention.
It makes me think of, I'm in the middle of watching this 4-hour retrospective on The Wire. If you haven't seen The Wire, you should go watch it. And a great theme of that show is that there's drug dealers, there's cops, there's corrupt government officials, and it's all cyclical because nothing ever really gets solved. Right? And that is true of pretty much everything. Now, like you said, all of the ways in which the California government failed its citizens would go unbeknownst to her because as a communist, I'm sure, she believes that government is the answer to everything. And she takes that view because she has the luxury of her beliefs because she comes from wealth.
Yeah, I don't think she earnestly holds any real beliefs. I think that she's been completely shaped by her isolated upbringing with Hollywood elite parents. And she has not been exposed to any contrary opinions for her entire life. She also seems to be incredibly deranged, like truly mentally ill. I think she is sick in the head. Just from watching her in that video with her mask on, you can tell that this girl is deeply mentally disturbed. I said, in the Victorian era, if you had a daughter who acted like this, she would be bedridden with a nerves disorder for her entire life. If she were raised as an aristocrat in the Tudor era, she would have fallen to the glass delusion. All of these people who believed they were made of glass.
Why did they? What was the? I saw that and I'm like, what is that? I didn't Google it because I was doing something else. But like
everyone who would have fallen to those conditions back then, they just have long COVID now.
Yeah, I mean,
and they're all bisexual. Okay, so she clearly has a neurotic temperament. Thank you.
There we go.
Which is
very much.
It's being exacerbated by all of the influences around her in Hollywood, and then now that she's at an Ivy League school, surrounded by people like this. And I can't really talk about
loud.
I cannot talk about Violet Affleck without talking about her younger sister, Serafina, who now identifies as non-binary and goes by the name Finn. So Serafina came out as Finn at a family funeral. That's actually...
I forgot about that.
That's how Finn came out to the world as genderqueer, because it's all about them. They believe themselves to be the center of the universe. And in this photo that you just pulled up, you see this 15-year-old girl with a pink buzz cut, just with that characteristic Ben Affleck depression on her face.
Yeah.
And
it's quite striking.
She's standing
Jennifer
next
Garner
to...
is the mother of these children?
Yes.
Yes, but she's standing next to Jennifer Lopez's daughter. This was back when Ben and J-Lo had gotten married. They're since divorced, but she's standing next to Jennifer Lopez's daughter, who also is under the delusion that she is not female. And they look terrible. They look miserable. They're trying to look homeless on purpose. And it's just like a...
See, ripped jeans in 2008 was a slippery slope.
Look at me. I believe that I am...
I just threw a year out there.
Okay,
like, it's like I hate myself and I want everyone around me to know it. Yeah. Like, I want to show the world how much I hate myself so that they will agree with me. Like, hate me too.
Don't worry.
That's what the message is being sent.
If that's what you're after, you're getting it, I promise.
Yeah, it's working. Whatever they're doing is working. And I feel bad for the younger kids because, I mean, at least you could say for Violet, she is now a young adult and is responsible for her own words and actions. But these younger kids clearly are a victim to being raised in deranged Hollywood households. Yeah. They're not the only example, not even close.
Yeah, there's kind of no real hope. I mean, there are plenty of kids that end up normal and they work in the same profession and they end up, normal. But a lot of these kids probably don't have the same aspirations as them. We even had a discussion beforehand. I said, do you call them a Nepo baby if they're not even going into the same field as them? Because when I think of Nepo baby, I think of an actor who's going to be, has his dad as his resume builder and his dad gets him roles in movies. That's what I think of when I think of a Nepo baby. I don't think of somebody who just happens to be the children of rich people.
I disagree. I think that if you're the child of a rich, famous celebrity, you just are a Nepo baby, and you can either use that for good or you can use it for evil. And Violet Affleck is using it for evil purposes. So, yeah, I think she might actually be giving Jaden Smith a run for his money as the worst Nepo baby in Hollywood. Someone needs to just shut her mouth. Use duct tape if necessary.
What should scare you is that she's the type that's going to end up going into politics.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely in politics.
Okay,
because
let's read
that's the only way that she'll be able to affect the change that she knows we need.
Yeah.
That for some reason no one else can see.
Except
but the 15, 16-year-old is fully aware. Man.
Yep.
She's quite something. Shane H. Wilder said, "Happy Thrashing Thursday, Brett, Mary, and Phil. Sadly, Brett is right for once. It is, if you build it, he will come."
Yeah,
then
we discussed that. You don't need to bring it up.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was not a Mandela effect.
Well, it's also, it's like Luke, I am your father, but it's just I am your father. He just says Luke 30 times in that monologue, so people kind of transposed it on there.
Yeah. Brian Bledsoe said 10 crisis parties for Brett's embarrassing songs on his playlist.
Not like, look, some things you just got to keep close to the vest.
Is Lola Young on your embarrassing playlist?
No.
That you don't play in front of people?
No.
Brett had a little bit of a moment before the show started.
No,
today.
what? Yeah, I
spilled his
peanuts.
peanuts.
And I just kind of held my head in shame.
Like, it just happened all at once.
I was just kind of like...
How did that even happen? You just knock it over?
Yeah.
It's like this big, tall jar of peanuts, and it just all went flying.
Everywhere.
And those are the moments where you have to laugh so you don't cry.
Yeah, it's true.
Shane H. Wilder said, "I listen to all genres and eras. I've had people hear my playlists go from metalcore to country to Gregorian chant and be like, I don't know if I should headbang, two-step, or go to confession. How about all three?"
Yes.
That
It's
sounds
the
like
meme
the right
of
way to live.
When people share their Spotify Wrapped, what you want people to say is like, oh my God, you're so quirky. You listen to rap and rock music?
That's why every year when the Spotify Wrapped comes out, I retweet myself saying, I genuinely care about your Spotify Wrapped and I love you.
Yeah.
Because that's what they want to hear.
And that's fine.
AI Shih Tzu said, "Once one is aware it's a game for Brett to fit in pop culture references into IRL as soon as possible, it's impossible to ignore it, track it, enjoy it."
No. I mean, there was a time where I wanted to challenge myself to fit a movie reference into the first 10 minutes of the show, but I didn't want to derail because they started to get increasingly obscure and irrelevant, but I had to find a way. I think what I was going to do after that was I was going to give a movie or show recommendation at the end of every episode I was on, but I always forget.
Oh, you should do that. People would like that.
But, yeah.
But then they would get mad. They'd be like, stop telling people to give money to Disney or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's exactly what they would do. Stop giving money to people who hate you.
Weary Traveler just said Phil.
Hi.
wanted your attention.
Let's hold off on the rest. We'll come back. Let's move on.
Right.
Gen Z, house parties, go.
Yes, Gen Z just discovered the existence of house parties, and you'll never guess who introduced it to them. The All-American Rejects are back. They are touring, and in between actual venue concerts, they are showing up.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
they're showing up at random tour stops for just house parties. One of them, they showed up at a bowling alley. Another one they did on a farm in Iowa. Another one was in a front yard for a college house in Missouri. Just random places. You sign up to RSVP for it, and they will message you when they're coming to your area. And it's all free. You don't have to pay to get in. And a lot of the people going to these house parties are Zoomers who didn't listen to this band growing up and probably just learned who they were from this stunt that they're pulling. The All-American Rejects are ditching arenas for backyards. They're doing a house party tour. You sign up on their Instagram and they might show up to throw a surprise show in your city. 2005 is back. And I just want to show this TikTok from their pop-up show in Minneapolis. They're in a bowling alley. I was confused at first before I knew what they were doing. I'm like, why are they in a bowling alley? Yeah. And he had this really impassioned speech to give to the Zoomers in the audience.
Here we go.
And when you win your fucking Huggies and just now seeing us for the first time, I want to thank you for coming out and supporting a rock and roll band that gives a shit about the common man. We're not trying to sell you finance tickets to Coachella. We're not trying to sell you Ticketmaster fucking penalty fees. We're not trying to sell you $25 parking. We're just trying to sell you some songs you might have grown up with and let you fucking let go with us in this non-denominational church of rock and roll. Now that being said, we got one more song to go the fuck off. Are you ready with me?
So I'm torn, right? Because part of the message is that they're against monetizing your art, because he's talking shit about bands who do arena tours, bands who go to Coachella, you know, anyone who's in like the Live Nation industrial complex. Yeah. And he's acting like he has more integrity than them because he's doing shows for free. Meanwhile, the All-American Rejects is preparing for a tour where they're opening for the Jonas Brothers in arenas. So they kind of want to have both their cake and eat it too. However, I do see the white pill in all of this, which is that Gen Z sees these videos on TikTok going viral and it motivates them to actually leave the house for once and be around other people and experience like going to a party for the first time. And I'm not even exaggerating. I've seen so many tweets about this where Zoomers are saying like, this looks like just like those parties that I always saw in movies. And it's because they genuinely have not experienced anything like that in their lives.
I will say that movies did set parties up to be a big letdown if you watched parties in movies as opposed to parties in real life.
Yes.
You had to be, like, your good time had to be subsidized by actually having fun with people that you liked, because they never lived up to the expectations that came from the parties in the movies. I recently watched, what was it? Not Saved by the Bell. Beverly Hills 90210. I watched the pilot for the first time. There were no parties like that when I was growing up. I grew up in the suburbs.
Certainly not. But it was definitely closer to the real adolescent experience of millennials who went to house shows and actually listened to the All-American Rejects when they were at their height of popularity and like bringing pop punk to the mainstream. One of the viral tweets about this said, "It's kind of insane that this band in a few weeks has completely changed their legacy and secured an entire new generation of fans by actually caring." I think it doesn't preclude you from caring about art to charge people to see it, but I get the point they're trying to make. It's like in a smaller venue, you are able to make eye contact with the people watching and singing along, and it feels like there's more connectivity in the room, and it feels like a more human-to-human experience. I get that. And then there's also just the charm of them playing these random venues that aren't venues. Like this one I sent you, Brett, is them playing a show at a farm in Iowa.
Those people down
This
there.
one?
Yeah.
It goes like this, and then it goes like this, and then the cars go like this, and then like this.
I mean, his
what happened in Ames, Iowa?
His language in the previous video about the common man is very right-wing coded.
You think?
Yes, I mean I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying that it would be perceived that way. The rest of
Maybe.
it was when I think of that, I don't think of leftist anti-capitalism. I think
it's perfectly apolitical to just have this like kind of charming, like rebellious side.
What?
Like this headline: All American Rejects pop-up show rocks Columbia house party. Police arrived, but they allowed them to do the encore. Yeah. They got the cops called on them because this didn't have a permit, and the cops showed up and just let them keep playing. Like, that's such a charming story.
What did he say earlier? He said the non-denominational Church of Rock and Roll would have gone hard in the early 2000s. This is a couple of decades too late.
This was his comment about their house party tour. The whole thing was a weird synchronistic happenstance of reactivity. We played a random house party, and all of the shows we played in the last 10 years, it was a big wake-up call to the reality of why we started doing this. We played in house shows, we played backyards, and I just told my manager that worked, so let's do that.
Yeah, but it's subsidized by opening for the Jonas Brothers.
Right, exactly. So they're trying to play it both sides, and I get that, you need to make money doing what you do. But people like that they seem to care about more than just money. And that they care about bringing young people together who didn't grow up with their music and are rediscovering it, or discovering it for the first time. There were a lot of tweets about this, which revealed a lot about like the mindset of these. Wait! I
want to read a comment here. I want to get your takes on this. Wendy in the chat says, "Come on, let's move on to something else. This isn't pop culture, nor is it a crisis." How is it's a 100% pop punk band, not pop culture?
That's music, baby.
That's music.
We have a 20 from Zach Hates YouTube. Happy Thrashing Thursday, PCC. I went on a first date last night, and the table had 2 chairs on one side and a C-shaped booth on the other. When we were seated, the waitress put our plates and utensils on the booth side.
So to seat them together, I guess.
Yeah.
Based.
So the other day we were down at me and Olivia were sitting outside of the restaurant, and the sun was just like in my eyes, and I was like, I guess I have to put up with it because we're not sitting on the same side. But it ended up not mattering. It ended up not mattering because the guy who owns the restaurant, they have like the big awning, the awning that they can turn the angle of to block the sun. And even when he turned it, he like kept turning it, and like never really like blocked it entirely. I'm like, yeah, that's good. After like 3 minutes of him trying,
I heard staring at the sun is good for you.
TV on the radio would agree.
But Phil, what do you think of the messaging behind what they're doing?
I mean, I don't know if it's how authentic it is, right? All American Rejects was a decent sized band, but what they're implying is that the people that they're playing for aren't familiar with them, but you don't get a boatload of cars lined up down the street and stuff unless people are familiar with you. So there's some kind of incongruity there. I'm not sure how people find out about these shows, because unless you're a really big band, a pop-up show like that is really hard to do. If you're just like, if you're a nobody band and you're just like, hey, we're playing in your town, people are like, sick, right. I'm gonna go do my dishes, right? They're like, I've got chores to do, I've got whatever. Especially nowadays where like it's really hard to get people to come out to shows, because 20 years ago it was shows were what people had to do. You would get maybe 2 or 3 options of something to do that night, right? Mm-hmm. Nowadays you're literally competing with almost an infinite array of things. You're competing with the internet, you're competing with Xbox, you're competing with Netflix. Computer games, you're competing with Netflix, you're competing with and you're asking people to spend at least $100, right? Like to go out to a show, you got pay for tickets, probably going to be $50, $60, $70 for 2 tickets, a couple drinks and parking, you're at $100, and money's fairly tight for most people. So the idea of a pop-up show.
That's where Klarna comes in.
Yeah, great. That's the idea of a pop-up show just being like, oh, pop-up show and a boatload of people. I feel like this is disingenuous, right? Either it was promoted well or people knew who the band is, which again, I mean, I know who All American Rejects are. The narrative that young people wouldn't know who All American Rejects are probably is true. You know, if you're 15 to 25, you're like, who's this band, I assume? So something doesn't add up to me. And I feel like, you know, either they're playing for their fans, they're getting in touch with fan club people, or, you know, they're making people aware of it somehow. Because, again, you don't just do a pop-up show and have a bunch of people that don't know who you are show up for your show.
Well, I think it's that a lot of people who weren't even fans with them until recently are signing up for the text message, and like it's maybe a day's notice that they text you that they're showing up in your city, and if you make it, you make it. You don't, and the concerts are all free. The pop-up shows.
Yeah,
are all
I mean,
free.
maybe
So,
again,
it seems worth it to them just for like the human experience of being around other people and having
Free
fun,
does help.
which
Free
Gen
does
Z doesn't generally do.
No.
We have a follow-up from Zach Hates YouTube. Thank you for the big super chat. So I sat down next to her in the booth, and I'm very glad I did. We ended up holding hands a little during dinner. Wouldn't have happened if I was sitting across from her like I used to think was the answer. I'm on Mary's team now.
Okay.
Based. I am pro sitting next to, not across. We have another 20 from Dreamcast Night. My best rock show was Janice Figure in Kirksville, Missouri. My first show. They rocked. But they were starting out. Shout out to them. Mechanical Bull is a song I still crank when I'm on a walk and it's jogging time.
Okay.
This is just like, it's heartwarming to me. I think that this is like a happy story for Gen Z. Like, finally, most of the things we talk about with Gen Z, it's a sign that they are incredibly stunted and socially isolated and chronically online, and this is an example of them at least claiming that they want to experience something else in the real world. And here were some of the revelatory tweets about it. The All-American Rejects doing house parties in 2025 for the culture is beautiful. It's not only about the business side of things, but it's about the culture. They said, this is like a movie scene. That's what they keep saying. It's like the movies. And then the All-American Rejects kicking off their comeback with house parties is the best music marketing I've seen in a while. Artists need to take notes on the spaces their fans actually want to see them in. I'll give you a hint. It's not an amphitheater. Another one said, the All-American Rejects house tour is restoring my faith in humanity. In a world where there is much inauthenticity, this feels like genuine artistry and people get to enjoy it. And then another one said, this is what I was promised house parties would be like in movies I watched growing up.
Yeah, and again, like, the people that have issues with like big venues, which it sounds, one of those comments was definitely, you know, a jab at big venues. And look, the cost of a tour is so astronomical. A lot of times if a band can get into a big venue, it's necessary, because a lot of people would be like, oh, I don't want to see them in a big venue. And then you see them in a club and it's just a small light package, and like, well, the show was kind of lame. You know, all they did was they got up there and they had some lights, but it wasn't really a show. And nowadays you've got like all the biggest bands that you see are all bands that have theatrics. Like Sleep Token's like the #1 band going. Falling in Reverse has has a lot of theatrical stuff in their stuff. Ghost put on masks and stuff. Slipknot put on masks. I mean, in this moment, do a bunch of things. There's very few bands that are just, we throw on the clothes that we wear during the day and get on stage and just go. Like, that isn't cool anymore. That was cool in the 90s and maybe in the early aughts. Nowadays, that doesn't fly. You have to do something to set yourself apart. So this idea that, like, oh, you know, I don't want to see bands in theaters or in amphitheaters, like, look, man, it's hard to do a show.
It's hard
when
to
a
do
crisis
a show.
party happens.
It's hard to do an episode of this show.
It's hard to do a tour because it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, the cost of just a bus nowadays, and I think I might have said this before, but like, we did a tour in 2022, and then we did the Megadeth tour last year. The cost for a bus from 2022 to 24, I mean, it was it was almost 50% more.
Yeah.
And it was nothing different. It was just a bus. So is
that from the rental or the gas?
Well, it's everything included. Okay. So the rental, the cost of hotel rooms goes into the cost of a bus. So inflation really, really hit hard, and it was it's a big deal when you're talking about gas, renting the bus, paying a driver, paying for the driver's room, maintenance on the bus, all that stuff goes into the cost. So I get why people would say I don't want to see shows in big amphitheaters, but at the same time, if you want there to be a big show, it has to be in amphitheaters. And the cost of doing a tour is astronomical. It's really, really expensive to do tours. So bands that can bring that many people out, that can fill a room like that, they're going to do it just so that way they can, actually make it worthwhile. So.
Yeah, but from the sound of it, it seems the appeal of what they're doing with the house parties is the grassroots
they're doing those for free, though. They're not doing it for money. This is a marketing.
They're not going to make, it's marketing for the tour that's actually going to make them money.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a permanent thing that they do, or maybe it'll just be a side hustle that they keep going for the years to come, but you still need to do an actual promoted tour.
This is probably I don't know who their label is, but they probably got a label that's investing in this, and they're sending, they're paying them, help giving them tour support, which is just an advance against the future sales of future streams and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm not in love with it. But.
Okay. That's fair. I get it.
All right, let's go to Super Chats.
Not that Jon Stewart said they're called intrusive thoughts.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the American version of the French term.
Yeah. It's always better to have a French term for something.
I'm going to read a couple of the Rumble rants here. Alpha 2 Omega says, howdy, people.
Howdy.
Hello. Deep South EDC says, Klarna for the gun shop, please. I would love to know what the federal government has to say about that.
Well, I mean, most gun shops take credit cards at least.
You can probably Klarna the accessories for sure.
Trees372 says the insurance biz is bad, but our health care is good. My wife is Canadian and has been waiting to see her OBGYN for a year and a half.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's what a lot of people were complaining about to the Lola Young video. How you're rich, you don't know what it's like. We have to wait for 2.5 years for NHS to give us an appointment.
Yeah, and another thing that I get that bothers me is when people are
not NHS, NIH. There.
People assume that they say, "Oh, you're on my internet, so you're rich." Are you sure about that? I mean, I understand why people would.
Well, Lola Young probably is quite.
Yeah,
rich already.
And I understand why people would make the assumption about me because of the band and stuff like that. But it's people that do podcasts are not necessarily rich.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
let's do 2 more.
Greg Duvier said USS Liberty. Thank you for that.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Shane H. Wilder said, is Mary thinking of L'Appel du Void? Call of the Void for intrusive thoughts. I think that's correct. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Do one more.
Take.
The Last of My Kind said, Phil, still thinking voice acting? Ask Seamus. They really want you to be in a Freedom Tunes video.
I mean, no, but I would do a Freedom Tunes video, sure, but I'm not particularly thinking about voice acting.
All right.
Give the people what they want.
We have a throwback to another time in pop culture.
Yes. Back in 2003, Tucker Carlson, early on in his career, gave an interview with Britney Spears. And this was back when she was 21 years old. She's not the Britney Spears that we know today, and I was just coming across a bunch of clips from this interview that warmed my heart. I feel like we should all go on this journey together and experience it together, just reminiscing and thinking about these simpler times that we used to enjoy in this country. This was at peak Britney. Yeah. She wasn't mentally ill and throwing knives around yet, and Tucker Carlson was actually working at CNN back then. This was when he was still the co-host of... No, he was the co-host of Crossfire already when this happened. And they said, you're talking to Britney Spears, who just did a lesbian kiss on television. This is the peak of the culture wars. Anderson Cooper actually said that. And I was like, wow. Different time.
Let's listen to this clip first then. Here we go.
just between you and me, how much Pepsi do you think you drink on an average day?
I really do like Pepsi.
Really? What's your favorite kind?
I really do.
Her
My favorite kind of Pepsi, Pepsi's Pepsi.
Well, you don't drink Diet Pepsi or
No,
Pepsi
just
Vanilla or Orange Pepsi,
regular Pepsi.
Oh, even more a sign. So if you want to watch another way, if you watch old TV shows that show you how different the culture was, characters drinking soda when they would never show that now. Now characters generally just drink water. But back in the day, you'd see regular characters around drinking soda. Now if a character was to drink soda in a television show, it would be a quirk that the character is saddled with, where they talk about his soda consumption.
Spears was paid $8 million to star in ads for Pepsi in 2001, but Tucker was skeptical that she consumed their beverages at all. This was the type of stuff that people wondered about celebrities back in 2003.
Does she actually
Does she
drink
actually
Pepsi?
like Pepsi? Yeah, and then they were talking
Such an
about,
innocent time.
you know, the fact that paparazzi follow her everywhere she goes, and how does it feel to have such a fast-paced lifestyle. And she has that southern drawl still.
I do also want to give her credit for doing an entire interview chewing gum.
Yeah, seriously impressive. And then in this next clip, he asks her about the controversial kiss with Madonna.
Okay, here we go.
This was so funny.
Tell me, give me the chronology of the kiss. How did you decide to kiss Madonna?
JT
Well, actually,
looking pissed.
when rehearsals, it wasn't something that was like,
You know, this is what we're gonna do, you know.
it was just kind of like, we played around a little bit. And she said before the performance, let's just feel it out and see what happens. So I didn't know it was going to be that long and everything, but it was cool.
Had you ever kissed a woman before?
No, I've never kissed a woman before.
Would you again?
Would I again? No, I would not do it. Oh, maybe with Madonna.
Oh.
There's even a shy, like a tone of shyness to her that you would never see from a celebrity these days.
It feels like every celebrity now, especially pop musicians who like don't have even a fraction of her fame and relevance at the time of this interview, act like Chappell Roan, where they're like resentful of being famous,
And aloof,
and they, you know, they almost like want to act like they're too cool for school. And then in this interview, she's just clearly so down to earth and like genuinely relatable in the way that she reacts to things.
Well, I mean, and people are kind of starved for that. And look at how like excited people get because Tom Cruise doesn't yell at them and doesn't act aloof.
This is all
right
the
now.
pre-social media
Yeah.
era, and you know, you didn't have to act like you were above it all the time. And you certainly these days, if a pop star did something like that, they would make it into some kind of stupid, over-intellectualized activist statement where like we're destigmatizing like
God.
queerness, you know. And then in her case, she was like, yeah, I don't know, it was just
kinda
like part
happens.
of the flair of like the performance, I don't know, like I'm like. And then she said it was like shocking to her the idea that she would ever do that in her civilian life. She was like, absolutely not.
Maybe if it was Madonna.
Right.
And the you know, the bashful way that she got when she was talking about
That's
it too.
what,
Like,
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
that's very
that
human.
you would not see that.
No.
You would see a fat, kind of manly looking, kind of lesbian looking woman talking about her ADH pills.
Right, exactly. The pop stars just ain't what they used to be.
Horrifying.
And here was the craziest part. Tucker starts asking her political questions because at the time, Britney was about to play a show at the National Mall, and he asks her about the Iraq War.
A lot of entertainers have come out against the war in Iraq. Have you?
Honestly, I think we should just trust our president in every decision that he makes, and we should just support that, you know, and be faithful in what happens.
Do you trust this president?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Do you think he's going to win again?
I don't know. I don't know that.
There's a lot of entertainers.
Look, that's that's very naive.
Yes.
And it fits with I think
time.
the time. This is
Yeah.
2003.
Yeah.
But it was also right, you know, 9/11 was just a year and a half, 2 years previous. So we still had a lot of that. Everybody's an American. We love America. It was everybody in America was like, we're all on the same team. And it didn't end like right out. Like nowadays, if 9/11 happened by like by the first of the year, people would be like, nah, you know, there would be people that would be like, oh, it was, you know, that was a false flag right away, obviously. But there would like the whole like we're all Americans, that stuff would die down very quickly. With back then, it lasted significantly longer.
This was one of the things that they talked about. I mean, on top of the fact that the show had run its course, that the X-Files essentially died at the time it did because after 9/11, nobody wanted to not trust they wanted to trust their government. They didn't want to be skeptical of the government anymore. They say that's one of the reasons why the Lone Gunman spin-off series just couldn't get any footing, because nobody wanted to be distrustful of the government. And there is a scene in the first episode of the Lone Gunman series where they stop a hijacker who stole a plane and was driving at the World Trade Center like 6 months before that actually happened.
Oh boy.
I think her just saying that she trusts the president, you wouldn't hear that from even like a political pundit who voted for Trump these days. Like, that's just a crazy thing to think about.
You'd hear it from the John Voights,
perhaps,
and and the people that are very active in politics, but she's not active in politics.
And it makes you like truly homesick for a place that no longer exists.
Yep.
Like that was a completely different culture, a completely different country. And she also so easily said that she doesn't know something. Never would you hear a celebrity admitting ignorance these days. And I also just sent you a different clip, and I want to go to the part where Tucker Carlson recaps it with Anderson Cooper in this video. It's at the 40-second mark, and he tells the audience what she's really like in person.
40 seconds?
Yeah.
What you sat down with her. What does she really like? What she seem like?
He looks 17.
Tucker.
Somebody in the chat said Tucker is 17 in that video. He looks 17.
Bow tie and everything.
She seemed very young. She seemed younger than a person who would bear her
You
midriff.
seemed young.
I mean, the impression I came away with was that it would be wrong to have adult thoughts about Britney Spears. I mean, she may be 21, but she seems, again, young in a nice way. But I mean, this is someone, who's been in entertainment most of her life, and I think she leads a very different life than we do, say, in cable, kind of sequestered.
Yeah, I also doubt she really watches CNN, but that's for another time. Tucker Carlson, thanks very much. It's fun.
Thanks, James.
That was another part of the interview where Tucker asks Britney what are her favorite TV shows that she watches.
She's like Crossfire.
I don't buy that Britney was like watching much TV during that era, but she said she loves Sex in the City. She's really loving these new reality shows on MTV.
I mean, Barack Obama was running the country.
She also claimed that she watches CNN all the time.
I'm saying Barack Obama was running the country and loved House of Cards and watched. Like he got early access to a lot of television shows because he was Barack Obama. And
she said Friends, of course. She loves Friends.
The Wire, I believe, is Barack Obama's favorite show of all time. He was probably screwing something up in Chicago government when The Wire was on.
For sure. Yeah. It's just, I know it's nostalgia slop, but I can't help it. I watch something like this and it just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah, things were different back then.
Definitely.
How long after this?
You weren't even born back then, were you? Were you born back then?
I was not conscious of my surroundings. I was probably 2. Yeah.
All right, let's finish these super chats.
Arsenal Man said, Ye's song is already the song of the summer.
Oh, boy.
So Lola Young can't even beat HH. She's already been outstreamed.
In the chat.
I don't think a song of the summer can be something that's been banned from every platform, though.
In the chat.
Find it anywhere.
In the chat, Black on Black says, yeah, Obama did a lot of late night TV. I don't know if you're talking about him watching TV late at night, but I did, even before I was politically aware, it was always weird to me how he was always on the late night cable shows. I'm like, doesn't he have stuff to do? I feel like he's busy.
People forget how much of it, people talk about celebrity. Donald Trump was a celebrity president because he came from entertainment and stuff. Barack Obama got into politics and then brought politics into entertainment more than any other president in history. The first guy that dipped his toes in was Bill Clinton when he went on MTV and played saxophone, right? But then when Barack Obama was elected, and he started doing Slow Jam the News and being on, like, not just, going on and talking, but like doing bits with them.
Yeah.
He wanted to be, an entertainer. He wanted to be a celebrity, which he is. And there's no debating that.
Yep.
Yeah, but keep in mind, I think Trump would absolutely go on late night shows if they offered him
100%.
any invites these days. Like
100%.
He would love to do that. They're just not inviting him on the shows.
Yeah, I'm not. I think that from now on, well, maybe not now on, but it is extremely likely that from now on, Democrats will be on those shows. Like AOC would, if she were to get elected to the presidency, she would do every single thing they asked her. She would be loved to
She'd
talk
go on
about
Call
how
Her Daddy.
Yeah, she's such a big deal, and she's the first woman president, and she would be Latina and blah blah blah, all of the things, and it would be exhausting. But yeah, she would definitely do that. And most I don't know if JD Vance has that in him. And I kind of get the sense that JD Vance is going to be the guy that's going to be running. He's the vice president, and he's very, like, people seem to like him, and he's very competent. It's possible that someone else could be, but right now it looks to me like JD Vance. But I don't know that JD Vance is that wants that kind of celebrity, but he might.
Yeah. Do you think that AOC or any of those politicians on the left who are kind of poised for 2028 would go on podcasts the way that Trump did the podcast tour? Would AOC go on Joe Rogan? Would she talk to Theo Vaughn? Like all of these.
I don't know. Part of me says yes because they're smart. Like they're very savvy. They might not, because they might say, "Oh, we can find other outlets," because she has done stuff with Hassan, right?
True.
I do think that I don't think that the far left, and Hassan is far left, I don't think that's where people that want to get elected are going to go, because just last night there was the two people shot outside of that Israeli, I don't know what
embassy?
It was.
It was a museum.
Yeah, it wasn't the embassy. But yeah, and the dude was hollering "Free Palestine." I don't think that people that seriously want public office are going to want to associate with people that do that kind of stuff, which is part of the reason why I think the left. I don't think that the left is the media left is going to want Hassan to actually be the next Joe Rogan, because this stuff that he's done in the past is going to become too much of a problem in the long run. I mean, you're not going to get Jewish people aren't going to give money to people that go on Hassan's show.
I mean, if they want somebody who's actually, they can't anymore because he got Me Too'd, but Shannon Sharp has a huge show, and his YouTube channel is huge, and now he's kind of, I don't know what he's doing post.
He's down and out.
I don't know what is going on after the Me Too allegations, but, he had the Cat Williams interview that went super viral, and a lot of other ones with people that are pretty relevant, and he would have on politicians. I absolutely believe that. Like, in a better way, like, I would rather watch Shannon Sharp than Charlemagne the God.
Yeah, and I think that, so I do think that they're going to need to do that circuit, whether or not they do. I think, and Rogan probably is necessary, and Rogan will be nice to him. Rogan was great to Bernie. Rogan was great to many leftists that were on his show that have now since like really treated him badly. I'm thinking of Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball. That he brought them on multiple times and was great to them, and they are just absolutely horrible people, and they are extremely critical of him. So we'll see who they do, but I do think that that's going to be necessary in the future.
We have a Rumble rant here from the local Wendigo who says, "Phil, some of the best shows I've been to are small local nobody bands at places like an old church, bowling place." Is that like different than a bowling alley?
No.
Tiny bars and old clubs hidden in an old hotel that's actively falling apart.
Okay. He's looking for something different. He's not looking for the same thing that most of like what he's talking about are generally like scene shows. Like if you're going to scene shows where you can play, like All That Remains, we've done a bunch of shows that are like literally where the band is set up in a half pipe, right? Because we go to like their skate parks. It's hardcore bands and metal bands. We'll go and play those places. I did a bunch of that stuff when I was coming up. We've played in dive bars. There's a place in Martinsburg where it's video games and pinball machines, and there is a small stage, and they have bands there. We didn't see any bands playing, but like there were a bunch of flyers. That kind of stuff happens all the time. VFWs, like that does happen all the time. But that's a completely different animal to like people that are going to like venues. You're not going to see, you know, not that I want to criticize any bands or whatever, but you're not going to see professional bands at places like he's talking about. You'll see bands that will go on to be professionals, but if you're playing at those places, you are by definition not a professional band. You maybe are out there on tour and you're slugging it out and you're trying to make your mark, but you're not like what anyone would consider a pro band. So okay.
Greg Duvier said, so Drown the World in Scarlet. Phil, guess the song.
That would be Scarlet by Nick Nocturnal and Phil Labonte.
Anti-You said, can you see the new Mission Impossible as a standalone movie?
Here's the thing about Mission Impossible movies, and I'm being 100% real here. Like, you probably can.
Yes.
Like here's the thing. I can never Benji. That's Simon Pegg's character's name, and it took me like watching multiple retrospectives to remember that. And Luther, which is Ving Rhames' character, but really it's just Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg, and Ethan Hunt is Tom Cruise, and the rest of it, you honestly, you probably can go for the spectacle. If anything else, like if you like action, go for that. Like it's half these movies are MacGuffins anyways. He has to get something, you don't know what it is or what it does, but he has to get it before time runs out, right? The AI is so poorly described in Dead Reckoning that it's almost irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. Tom Cruise has got to run, he's got to ride motorcycles, he's got to jump off buildings because he's got to get something done before time runs out, and sometimes that's enough, and I think you should go see it. I am going to go see it Friday night. I'm probably, but can't confirm for sure, going to maybe come into work on a Saturday and record my thoughts on it, but I'm not going to take notes, so I'll just have to go off it's going to be on vibes. If I do it, it's on vibes.
Taught me something. A MacGuffin is an element in a work of fiction that drives the plot and motivates the characters, despite being relatively insignificant to the story itself. Coined by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yep.
Never heard it before. Weird Traveler said, Brett.
Thank you. Hello. How are you doing?
Pop Culture Junkie said the credit card companies were scared shitless when Klarna and its successful competitor Affirm came out. Now they're laughing their ass off. I forgot about Affirm. That's another one. So there's Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay. I'm just confused because if they want to finance something, why don't they just get credit cards?
Because actually one other reason, because they don't have good credit. That's why these things exist. This is
very entry level credit line of like $200 with a bad credit score, and buy your DoorDash with that and pay for it next month.
They're not going to pay for it next month. That's the problem.
That's the problem, I suppose.
The problem, the reason these things exist.
Put it on auto pay.
Look, the reason they don't have the money is the point.
I guess, yeah.
Like they don't have the money to send in to get a secure $500 credit card.
They just want free Taco Bell.
People,
I can relate.
The people that do these that are using these services, and the evidence of this is that these services are failing, right? Like it's not a sustainable business model because these people are not paying back their bills. That's why. Look, there is a portion of the population that just cannot pay bills. They just can't. They just can't manage to make the money, and they can't manage to regularly pay the bills. They can't manage to not spend every dime they get. This is like, there are people that come down on hard times, but there is a portion of the population that no matter how much money they have, they're going to be broke. Right? You can give them millions of dollars and they will spend it all. And that's one of the things that happens so frequently to people that win the lottery. And the reason isn't because they didn't win enough money. It's because they're bad with money. Yeah. And they're the
type of person that enters the lottery, which is a very specific subset of people.
They're the type of people that play the lottery. They're the type of people that would finance a chalupa You know,
Yes.
like those people
Yeah.
are bad with money. The fact
People
that
who
you're
lease cars.
trying. What?
People who lease cars.
I don't know. Lease cars is a different thing. It's not great, but lease cars, it's not always bad.
Depends.
It depends because like the value, if you're going to give it back, the value of the car dumps, like when you buy it. So as an asset, a car's not great.
True.
So the idea of, well, I'm going to have a payment all the time anyways just to drive a car, so I'll lease this car and I can give it back to him after I've kind of used up all the you know,
juice.
once the shine is knocked off.
Well,
I can give
I
it
just
back.
mean people who lease a car that's like way out of their pay grade.
People
for
that
just
make-
the coolness
Yeah,
factor.
yeah.
Well, the meme is always now when the blue collar like construction worker makes fun of the guy who goes to college and pays $80,000 a year for college, gets an $80,000 truck loan that they can't pay back.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, there are always going to be people that are bad with money, which is part of the reason why, like, when you hear that woman that was, you know, talking about capitalism, if you're mad at capitalism, it's likely that you're shitty with money.
I
and
mean,
you're
I don't
using
think
it as
her
an
critiques
excuse.
of that business were wrong. I mean, she's right that the business didn't assess their risk with the people who were borrowing the money well, isn't she?
No, yes, that's true. But the people, that's true, and that's why the business is going out.
Yeah.
But like I said, if her perspective were that, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that her perspective is based in just hating business, she'd be like, well, that's what happens, dumb. You know, it's kind of good because the market's working. These people made a bad business call and they're paying for it by losing their money. That's the market for you. But the way that she was discussing it, either way, it was their bad, you know, because it's not that the business was run bad. It's that she doesn't like business in general. But
Weary Traveler said, Mary, hello. Not that John Stewart said, rice, chicken, dried beans. Dried is cheaper per ounce than canned.
There
You
you
have
go.
to soak the beans to use them.
Yep.
Very simple. Shane H. Wilder said, the issue is people want instant gratification. Buying food and cooking is not hard, but it takes time. I question if these people vacuum or do laundry.
That's another thing. Like look, if you look around your apartment and it's disgusting, you're not broke because of someone else.
Yeah.
That is 100%. That is 100% guaranteed true. If you look around your apartment and there is dirt that has not been cleaned up, if your place is not at least marginally clean, even if it's in a bad neighborhood or whatever, it doesn't have to have a fresh coat of paint. But if you have if there's like overflowing garbage, if your garbage can is constantly overflowing and you're broke, you're the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Claes Lovgren, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Klarna is a Swedish online payment provider. Think PayPal. Their API is great. Why they're popular. If you want dirt, check their history. U.S. economical and food culture slop is not on them.
Okay.
Yeah. King said...
Is that like the CEO of Klarna? Like...
No.
Okay.
He's
Could
just
be.
a guy who sounds Swedish, I guess. I think this is a 20 that we missed, so I apologize, but this is from King. Crisis Party now, maybe.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you for contributing.
I
to
think
the
Phil
crisis
was
parties.
Phil was driving a point home when that was being said.
High Voltage 75 said, Phil asking for crisis parties. Does this mean he likes the Suitcase song now?
Yes.
No.
He just likes us.
Yes.
Yes, I want to see PCC succeed, which is
We all
why
do.
I was giving them crap about some stuff earlier.
Yeah.
Before the show, I'm like, you guys should do this and you
Some
should do this. Like,
tough
look,
dad
it's
energy.
not my business or whatever. It's not my show, but you should do this and you should do this and blah 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 blah.
Weary Traveler said, what is Phil's go-to sweet treat?
I like how this is now
Or sorry,
synonymous with a sweet treat.
Your sweet tweet. What is
I
your
don't
go-to
know what sweet treat is.
Like, do you have? Is there like something that
I
you
know.
splurge on? Do you go to get ice cream? Do you go to?
Oh, so ice cream is one of the greatest creations in all of human history. And I love crumble cookies, just the regular chocolate chip ones. I haven't had. I've had like three bag bucket, whatever box, three quantity box in the past like month and a half. Because when we were moving, I was doing so much to move from the old apartment to the new one and like we just weren't getting time to go to the gym. We were trying to get everything done, and then there was a bunch of we had a bunch of trips that we had planned and stuff. So that, like my whole going to the gym just got totally thrown out of whack for like almost a month. And I gained like 10 pounds because I just kept throwing down cookies. And I was like, all right, I got to stop this. And I had been really, really good about going to the gym and eating right until I kind of got a little sick. I had some issues with my car and I got sick last week. But I still haven't had cookies. And everybody brings them up now, I feel like, all the time.
They're out to get you.
There was David brought cookies to the show. David Harris Jr. brought these awesome protein cookies, and I was like, it's protein cookie.
So it's healthy.
It's yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, man. So it's cookies and ice cream are the two things.
Shane H. Wilder said, come on, guys, get Phil a crisis party before he sends a twerkin' tweaker to your house. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
That's
Twerking
terrifying.
tweaker.
The last of my kind said, Brett, look up NWH My Peanuts. It's relevant.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. Brian Bledsoe said, here's my goody two-shoes hot take. Bringing outside food to the movies is equivalent to shoplifting. I await the roast. That is an insane take, and even if you were right, I would not listen to you because the cost of concessions at movie theaters is outrageous and the food is also awful, so I'm never ever going to do that. Outside food to the movie theater forever.
It's a song.
Is that how you felt when you spilled the peanuts?
I'm not going to listen to it because I don't want to get copyrighted. I don't know if it's copyrighted.
Shane H. Wilder said, music is the essence of pop culture. Music is shaped by the culture and culture by the music.
Hence the reason you have fat, ugly British women telling you to take Adderall.
I hereby decree everything that we cover on this show is pop culture. Everything covered on Pop Culture Crisis is pop culture. From here on out, you cannot object to it.
I don't care if we're talking about foreign policy.
I don't
care if we're talking about the USS Liberty.
Yeah. I don't care if we're talking about the USS Liberty or tariffs. I don't care what it is. It's pop culture because we said so.
If I find some way, as I always do, to tangentially connect it to some random television episode from something 20 years ago, it is grandfathered in to pop culture.
Which Brett is, I don't know about uniquely, but probably uniquely skilled at.
Yeah.
Like, it is amazing the ability that Brett has to reference pop culture. So
James
he's right where he should be.
Coteridis?
Sorry.
And James Coteridis said, house parties were the thing in our UNH days. From what I'm told now, the kids don't party like they used to. I guess Gen Z can't hang. It's true, but maybe it's making a comeback. Maybe they are discovering partying for the first time.
I just don't think they want to. I think it's too risky to put yourself out there, get drunk, act stupid when everybody's got a camera phone.
It's so risky.
Yeah, sadly. AI Shih Tzu said this All-American Rejects theme they're pushing is as fake as when Death Clock played in their own tribute band to touch their roots. I didn't know that they did that. Another one. Hate when music has lore. I will say it again. I will say it a million times. The shtick of Death Clock is that they're not real?
Well, they're a cartoon.
Yeah, like that's their shtick. Okay, what next? I'm like, sure, what the hell?
Oh, that's great.
Oh, the shtick of gorillas is that they're not real. How fucking cool. I am enthralled. I've never heard anything more interesting than that in my life. Hate when music has lore. Weary Traveler said, I went to a concert a few weeks ago to see a band called Calabrese. I hope I said that right. And saw a lot of what I would assume are Zoomers. It caught me off guard. I'm glad they weren't doom scrolling for those 3 hours. Wow, I'm more impressed that they went and didn't look at their phones the entire time.
Yeah.
Because at least if they go, you would expect them to be spending most of the time recording it or scrolling when nothing is happening, capturing their attention. But
I mean, all they have to do to lure the Gen Zers into a concert is make vapes acceptable in the venue, and they'll show up. Adderall and vapes, you're allowed, and they'll be like, "Yeah, we'll show up."
Red Snow said, "What makes you feel cold and prickly inside?" When Brett turns down the temperature by 1 degree in the
Well, that's
studio.
the outside, I thought.
Oh yeah, it's bone chilling, truly. Shane H. Wilder said, "What is with everyone liking Friends? I'm not a fan. I tried it once. Once was too much. They say you enjoy shows that portray things you want to have."
I would imagine that people nowadays would love Friends then, because it seems like people need friends and they want apartments and they don't have either of those.
They want to be able to afford that apartment in New York City. That's
oh
what
my
they
God.
want.
They really want apartments. They really want to go to a coffee shop that has a couch in it.
Yep.
I sat down in a Starbucks the other day and I was like, it was like a set that was made to look like a coffee shop.
I mean,
and
most of them are like that.
They have like certain seating that's deceptively made to look comfortable, and then you sit on it and you're like, I've never
They had the federal
been
government
so uncomfortable in my life.
They had the federal government design it like the way
Yeah,
they design the things
yeah.
for anti-homelessness.
Yes, literally. And they also don't have individual tables in the Starbucks anymore. Just a big, long table that everyone has to share. Who wants to sit with a bunch of strangers at a communal table?
They want to push everyone out. They want to get everybody in, get everybody out.
Marxism is what it is. And then
It's communists.
People were coming in the door every 2 seconds to pick up their mobile order frappuccino. These ham planets, I'm sorry, but like they were like opening this loud ass door, and every time you open the door it turns on the AC, you know, like how they have the fan above the door that goes on blast every time someone walks in. And it was just not the vibe.
Yeah.
It was not what Starbucks used to be. Like, it used to have incandescent light bulbs, couches, real seating. You know, you could probably use the bathroom without stepping over someone's used needles. And it was just a better time all around.
Take a risk. Go to a Starbucks with open-toed sandals.
Yeah. Live on the edge.
Live on the edge.
James Coderita said, "At Phil, breathe life, or when darkness falls, stay metal."
When darkness falls. That first riff. When darkness falls. Absolutely.
James Coderita said, "Phil, I know fan suggestions don't make policy, but given your politics, an updated cover of Hook and Mouth seems perfect for you. What do you think?"
Love that song. Love that song.
Would you do a cover?
I mean, maybe. But, yeah.
Omega Red Fan said, "Tickets for Tool were $100, general admission, no fees included, in 2019. I could afford it, but I didn't go. Maybe I should have gone."
Yeah, I mean, look, tickets are ridiculously expensive. Then you throw in fees. It's hard to put together, you know, decent shows and have, you know, the kind of profit margins that, you know, make it worth doing, because it's a lot of work and it's hard to do. So.
Not that John Stewart said, "If they had properly risk assessed people, they would have been called classist or racist."
Yep.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
Well, what would the point of Klarna be if you had to have a good credit score to use it then, you know? Then those people would just have credit cards, again, as we said. Pop Culture Junkie said, "Part of a firm's business model is to offer 90 days same as cash for higher ticket items. The merchant then pays a firm a fee instead of the credit card interchange fee, usually 3% of the purchase." I didn't know that. Wonder if it's the same for Klarna. Red Snow said, "Been splurging on Slurpees. I can feel my teeth." What does that mean? You can feel your teeth?
It's like if you ever drank Coca-Cola and you could just like feel it on your teeth.
Ew. Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
It's a bad thing.
That sounds awful.
John Cena.
I don't drink soda.
John Cena in the chat says, "OTC suppressors in the big beautiful bill. Call your congressman, Congress turd." Does that mean over the counter?
Yep. So
like so that you can buy them directly from
the Hearing Protection Act has been put into the big beautiful bill and it passed the House with it. So right now it's moved on to the Senate. There is still needs to get the Short Act, which is taking short barrel rifles off the NFA. But right now it's looking like just so long as there aren't changes in the Senate, and I think that this is a tertiary issue for most people.
Every time.
Every time. Thank you, Phil.
Just the disappointment on your face. Sorry. Continue.
But yeah, it's the Big Beautiful Bill does have the Hearing Protection Act in it, and they also, as a backup in case the parliamentarian says that you can't take take suppressors off the NFA because it is a funding bill, there's a backup to replace the $200 tax with a $0 tax. So you would still have to, they would still be registered. You still have to go through all kinds of paperwork and stuff, but hopefully it stays the way that it is, and hopefully they can get the Short Act on there as well.
Shane H. Wilder said, I tried another flavor from that homemade ice cream shop, Lemon Bar. It's vanilla with chunks of homemade lemon bars. It's actually quite pleasant. That sounds amazing.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah. I'm usually more into the chocolate ice cream, but I would definitely try that. The best one I ever had was the brand called Van Leeuwen, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it, but all the crunchy people on Twitter say it's the best. And their marzipan cake flavor, I think it's discontinued, but it was the best ice cream I'd ever tried in my life.
Crunchy people, so like Alex Clark approved?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
James Codoridis said, hashtag USS Liberty is pop culture.
We should make a shirt that says that.
Nah. I think we would get banned from Teespring for that one. No thanks.
I think that might be obscure enough to get away with it.
I like the idea that we just put it up in the shop and Tim looks one day. He's like, what the fuck?
He would find it funny. Red Snow said, you don't need lore to realize Thunder Horse rocks. I don't even know what that is. Do you feel shy right now? Is that
What?
why you're
No,
camera switching?
No.
What's going on,
Camera's
buddy?
on me. Sometimes I used to do this more. When we had more time than usual left over today. So.
I see. Shane H. Wilder said, hear ye, as decreed by her empress, supreme theological dictator, Mary of the House of Morgan, all topics shall henceforth be pop culture.
It would actually be funny to record a pre-recorded video of you saying that and then play it before every episode.
Just so everyone knows going into it.
If you have something to say about it, shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Yeah. But like phrased in a nice way.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it is ridiculous. Like every time we cover something in pop culture that doesn't fit someone's particular taste in pop culture, it's suddenly not pop culture anymore.
Look, this show has evolved, and there's a lot of stuff that we don't cover that other channels do, and that's fine. But what I found, for the most part, is like when we go and cover some of that stuff again, because we've cultivated an audience that's looking for the stuff that we have started to cover, it doesn't translate.
Sure,
and that's
I mean,
fine.
look,
like they'll go to the people that do cover that stuff for those videos.
Plenty of things that might bore you, that you might dislike, whatever. That doesn't mean that it's not pop culture, though. Like, I feel like that's just kind of an empty platitude you can kind of throw out there. Weary Traveler said Mary needs to watch the entire Metalocalypse series along with the movie. Absolutely not. I have watched, I believe, like a handful of episodes and hated every second of it. It is awful. It made me want to die, actually. I don't know why. It just did. It's terrible.
Okay.
Have you watched it?
Nope. No.
Okay.
No. I couldn't tell if you were being serious or if this was a bit.
You think this is a bit?
Why did you
My entire life's work wrapped up in a bunch of meme words?
Why?
Sorry.
Why did you watch it?
I don't know. It was just recommended to me, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I would like this, and it was trash.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to.
Trash.
I wouldn't expect you to like it.
I mean, it was so bad that it made me angry. Yeah. I'm not kidding. Like,
I believe
there's nothing about this that is a bit. I'm deadly serious. It was awful, and you're wrong for liking it. Okay. Moving on. Terrence Rice said, never knew how much I appreciated sneaking out of the house late at night in high school to go to college parties till this episode of PCC. Gen Z is missing out. Yeah, in a lot of ways. But there are parts of the party culture that, you know, they benefit from staying away from too.
I never had, like for me, I guess because my grades were fine, not great, and I never got in trouble for anything. Like, I didn't party a lot in high school, but I skated every day and would oftentimes come home very late at night and was never really held to a curfew because I always drag my ass out of bed to school on time the next day. So as long as I got my schoolwork done and I didn't pass out in homeroom, I was, left to my own devices. But imagine how good I could have been if I'd actually gotten some sleep. My 45 IQ would have spiked to like at least 60, and I might have actually gotten decent grades and had a life in front of me.
You're in your developmental years.
Yes.
Still.
Yep.
Those are brain cells you're never going to get back.
Never getting those back.
Dingus Khan said, Phil, destroyer of senses or the light that blinds.
No.
Is that a trick question?
He's talking about a band that I don't like.
Okay. Brian Bledsoe said, Phil, what do you think about music with lore?
I mean, so I don't hate it. I would never do it, right? Like I would never write like a concept album. There are some good concept records. There's some bands that have done some good concept records. I like Old Queensryche and Operation Mindcrime being the most notable, I think. But yeah, I mean, like Guar's fun, but I don't have time for Ghost. I'm part of the reason why I like Guar is because of when they started and because they're, some of the guys in the band are really great dudes. But yeah, I don't have time for new bands that have lore. So.
Well, Sleep Token is a new band you like that has lore.
They may have lore, but I don't pay any attention to it. I think
Based.
I think they're good on their. I think they're good on their merits. So.
Unimaginably based. Man, it's so annoying. Okay, James Coteritis said, "Kickstart My Heart is my Left Lane song. What's yours?"
Ooh, well, Blinded by Fear always makes me worry about where the cops are, especially now that I got a new car that's like really fast. So,
how about you, Brett?
There is so much rap music that I listen to that uses police sirens in the music that end up
getting you a little bit anxious.
Yeah. Pretty much any old Tupac or Snoop will put some fear of.
You're into the old '90s Snoop stuff.
I mean, that's what I grew up with. I grew up stealing my brother's CDs from his room, which was like All Eyes on Me, East 1999 Eternal, West Side Connection, stuff like that.
I don't.
Mac Dre.
I don't speed, so I have no answer for this.
If you look, I'm not gonna go ahead and like do any kind of blowing anyone up. But if you knew what Mary drives, you would understand why I think that's hilarious.
We're not talking about it. Shane H. Wilder.
Speeding.
That's not even possible.
Exactly.
Shane H. Wilder said, "I'll clip the hear ye and make something for y'all." Thank you. Greg Duvier said, "All that remains tour with Metalocalypse."
I mean, we did that already. We did that a long time ago.
Pop Culture Junkie said, "Having watched you folks for a year and a half, I think your curation of the pop culture subjects you cover has steadily improved. So there." Well, damn, I didn't think we were that bad off in the first place, Pop Culture Junkie, but thank you.
What's weird is like we go through it every day. And we look at our topics, and we're like, usually it's you put it up in the air, and you're like, this one's gonna do well, this one might do okay, that one's gonna suck. Not that it won't do well when we're live; it might actually make for a great discussion. But oftentimes, it's pretty clear to tell once you've like done this enough, what videos are gonna catch interest for people who are watching later.
For instance, we've kind of steered clear of anything going on with the Diddy trial. Because every time we uploaded a video from the show about the Diddy trial, it just didn't do as well as our other segments. So that's just it.
Also, like that's for people, especially at the phase it's in now. It's in the trial. So if you are a lawyer YouTuber,
you have to be well versed in all of the names and all of the details, and you have to have like the documents like the back of your hand at this point. So it's not really our bag.
And a lot of that is like if you're doing 5 days a week and you're live at the same time every day, it's very different than if you're doing a couple of days a week and you put a lot of assets into it.
Like planning and scripting.
Yeah, it's different. But you know, that's why sometimes it is fun to like. What was the one I was saying the other week? It's like when we cover the one where they torture themselves, the TikTokers torture themselves. I'm like, the audience live will think it's hilarious. Nobody's gonna care on the segment.
Right. We have a 20 from Chef Dylan. Hit the like button, guys. Phil, any opinions on Wretched?
Wretched?
I assume it's a band or something.
If that's a band, I haven't heard them. No. So.
But he's
Sorry.
right. Hit the like button if you haven't already.
Do it.
Weary Traveler said Mary's banshee stare and wail just turned my heart into dust.
What is a banshee stare?
I don't know. Hope you're okay. Not That John Stewart said, well, I know what I'm marathoning this weekend. Do anything for Death Clock. Do anything for Death Clock. Do anything for Death Clock. You're cringe. Moving on. Red Snow said there's a lot of things Mary and I disagree on, but I really appreciate her passion for hate. I can hate things, just not, you know, people, so it's really easy for me.
Mary is like, what was the topic the other day where you're just like, this is just going to be a topic of me hating? Like, what?
All of them?
I mean, but there was one
this
where
week?
I think it was this week where we addressed it specifically, where you're like, am I just a hater? And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of just a hater right now.
I've lost track at this point, but actually, let me go back and check.
Like,
because I write these down.
I will say this is one of those things where it's like Mary wants to talk about it. It's clearly hating, and I'm like, a good portion of those types of topics, I don't care much. Like even when we were doing the American Rejects thing earlier today, my first thought was like, on a different day, I might have something to say about the dichotomy.
Bella Hadid.
Yes, it was Bella Hadid.
That was what it was.
Like on a different day, I might have been more critical of the All American Rejects topic, but today I'm like, whatever. Like, good for them.
Sure.
Like today, I will give them the benefit of the doubt and assume it's totally because they're all about the art.
Great. Pete Donovan said, since Mary is Ghost Empress and Brett is Ocular Overlord, should we call Phil either the Phil, his Philness, Phil-er, or, you know, El Filarino if you're not into the whole brevity thing?
El Filarino, of course.
I actually like his Philness. That's a good one.
There you go.
You agree?
Bear with me.
No Control said, I'm trying to like Sleep Token. It feels like pop metal, like what happened with pop punk. But there's a lot of good pop punk, too.
Yeah, and I think most people that are into metal kind of don't realize that, like most metal that people are into is pop metal. Like, you can be very heavy and still be pop, like, right? Like, so, like, I know this is going to sound completely crazy to some people, but, like, Whitechapel is like a pop deathcore band. And the reason I say pop is because they're popular, right? It doesn't sound like pop music, but as far as deathcore goes, it's popular, so that makes it a pop deathcore band, you know? What is pop nowadays is very different than what was pop 25 years ago, because the internet has totally annihilated the concept of underground. It used to be you had to go out and search for bands like Whitechapel. Now you do a Google search for bands like Whitechapel. It's delivered right to your computer. Used to be, like when I sound like an old guy now because I am, but like when I wanted to check out a new band, I had to go to a specific record store. When I was a kid, I mean, I had to go to a specific record store that was like 35 minutes away from my house. So I needed to get my mom to take me, and I had to buy a CD, and I had to hope that it was good. Right, because you didn't have any way to listen to it. So like you were going and you were really discovering things, and nowadays you just put it in your Spotify. So the idea of like an underground or the hunt for a new band to really be into, that's all gone away. Like, so now like everything is like pop is kind of like an amalgamation of just like the bands that are popular from whatever genre. So I get what you're saying about Sleep Token being kind of pop because they actually are, you know, they're topping the charts and stuff. But, you know, there was a time where, you know, the idea of a band that had parts as heavy as Sleep Token, just it was of them being on the top of the charts, that wasn't even in the cards. So.
Okay.
AI Shih Tzu said, Thunder Horse is a Death Clock song, Mary. How dare you not have an encyclopedic knowledge of a Cartoon Network late night show from 20 years ago? Ree! That's legit how some of you sound. Greg Duvier said, Phil, I passed someone in the right lane yesterday.
That's because someone in the left lane was not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They were not breaking the law.
Pop Culture Junkie said, oops, didn't mean to imply you sucked at the start. I get it. No hard feelings. Weary Traveler said, Banshee, plural noun, banshees, in Irish legend, a female spirit whose wailing warns of an impending death.
Okay.
I like that. No Control said Mary should start a metalcore band called Passion for Hate.
Not wrong.
Gordon Shumway said Libby gave us an update on the Diddy trial this morning on LibbyCast.
Good stuff.
It does feel more political than pop culture, honestly.
It does, yeah. Dr. Larsena said no, Phil is the big Labonte. Right, we settled this last week.
I do like that one.
Okay, I think that we're all caught up.
All right. Guys, before we go, would you hit the like button on this video, please, and subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you have not subscribed here yet already. I'm guessing that the crisis party will go off right before we go off air. Otherwise, it'll probably go when Phil starts talking. So, okay. Phil, where can they find you?
So you can find me on X at Phil That Remains. I'm at Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. And just released yesterday, myself and Nick Nocturnal wrote a song called Scarlet, and you can check it out on the YouTubes. You can check it out on Spotify. It was really cool. Nick wrote the music, I wrote the vocals, and obviously did the vocals and stuff. And it's really neat, so go check it out. You can also check out the new All That Remains record on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, and YouTube. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived. I'll also remind you I'm going to be on Timcast IRL tonight, but I believe Phil is hosting. And we have one last super chat from Red Snow. Can we get a praise be to Space King in the chat?
Yes.
Let the chat decide on that one.
They can decide that one. Guys, if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. We are here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is noon Pacific. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. If you would like to listen rather than watch the show, you can rate and review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, which is another great way to help. And if you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twix at PopCulture_show, Facebook at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, stay tuned, I guess, for a post-credit crisis party, and then we will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.
Bye.
Later, guys. There it is! Crisis party! Mary is dancing without the headphones on. It's always louder without the headphones.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody.